Welcome back. We're talking with David Frank, who has a new plan for representative government. David, let's talk about the term you use, honeycombs. And you talk about redesigning communities to look like them. What exactly do you mean?
Basically, what we're saying is that, right now the government is organized. That's why it's basically controlling our lives. We, the people, have to get organized. And the best way to do it, I believe, is, in fact, the politicians have figured this out already. What they've been doing is they've been remapping America with gerrymandering. And for your listeners that don't know what gerrymandering is, it's remapping a district so that a politician can either get elected or reelected. So they've been remapping America for a long time. The Postal Service figured it out with zip codes. They remapped America a long time ago so that they could get organized, so they could deliver the mail better. The phone company figured it out with area codes. They remapped America so that we could communicate better. We, the people, have to get organized, and we have to remap America. We now have the satellite and computer technology so that we can remap America so that it looks like a honeycomb. And the reason that it needs to look like a honeycomb is if you look at God's creature that's most responsible for making the world a beautiful place, it's a honeybee. The honeybee stores the fruits of its labor in a structure called a honeycomb. Your community will now be a hexagon. If you ever look at a honeycomb, you'll notice that it's made up of hexagons. Your community will now be a hexagon, and the nucleus will be your local issues television and radio channel to send the people's ideas out directly to the people and the community computer, so that when people are interested in these different issues, they can vote with any touch-tone phone. The call will go into the computer, count the vote, block them out from voting more than once.
No,
when we find things, let me just finish here. When we find things that work in our community, we'll share that information with 999 other communities around the country. And when they find things that work, they'll share it with us, and we'll start rebuilding America from the ground up.
Now, would a greater inflow of opinions in Washington cause chaos from having too many ideas?
Well, no, because these ideas need to be test marketed in our communities. And when we find things that work, that's when we share them. What they do in Washington is they come up with an idea and they paint the whole country this color. And the next thing you know, it's a bad idea, and we're stuck with the whole country living with these bad ideas. It's sort of like painting your house. Unless you paint a little piece of your house and you look at it and you say, that looks good or that looks bad, before you paint the whole house and have to redo the whole thing, it's better to start from the ground up. And I think that this is what America needs right now. We've got 300 million people. The best way to know how 3 million people feel is the same way you eat an elephant, from the ground up, piece by piece.
Now, what prevents your proposal from turning into a tyranny of the majority? If the majority decides that you shouldn't own a gun, but that goes against the founders' intent, what prevents your system from preventing that?
Well, right now our lives are being ruled by the minority, and it has nothing to do with skin color or religion or race or anything like that. Right now we have 535 people that don't communicate with us that are dictating to 300 million people. On a state level, you have 150 people that are dictating to 6 million people. And on a local level, you have 9 people that are dictating to, in our community, 267,000 people. The majority and the minority always changes. And look on your city council, you make decisions because it's 5-4. And that's not mob rule, that's just the majority. And the same thing holds true in state capitals, and the same thing holds true in Washington. And the neat thing about this is when the majority rules, and the majority always changes. You might be part of the majority in one issue, be part of the minority in another issue. But the nice thing about the majority winning, I don't really think that we want to go to a system where, we found out that it's 95-5 and we're going to do what the 5% wants as opposed to the 95%. But the nice thing about this is this system makes as many people happy on various issues as possible. Right now, we have a system where the majority of the people are unhappy on just about every issue because, hey, these are the laws that we're living under are coming from corporations that have hired lobbyists to bribe politicians. to turn their bills into laws, and now our country is being run by corporations, which I think everybody is finally waking up to that fact.
Now, David, let's talk about the transition into your system. How would that look like? How would that work? What laws would have to be put in place to execute it? Where would the money come from?
Well, my goal is to get this out to people in every community so that they can start getting busy and talking to their local public broadcasting station and explain to them that this is the kind of system that they would like to set up, a local issues channel, TV and radio, so that the people in your community can be empowered and have a voice. And remember, the Constitution, slaves didn't have voices. Conversely, people with voices are without voices are slaves. This will give everyone in your community a real voice. But the way that you do it is you don't worry about what's going on in Washington. You don't worry about what's going on in your state capital. You start fixing your piece of America starting in your own community by hooking up these necessary communication tools. Talk to your public broadcasting station and tell them that you'd like to use public broadcasting to actually broadcast the public. Sit down with city council people and explain to them that you want them to be educated on how you, the people, feel about the issues, and you get them to finance it. Right now, we are working with our local city council. We have several people that realize the importance of this plan, and they are asking for $600,000 to actually start building the necessary technology within public broadcasting to get this thing up and running. And once again, like I said, you got your food channel, travel channel, sports channel. This is going to be your local issues channel where you, the people, get busy and start fixing your community. Don't wait for the people in Washington to do it. They aren't going to do it. They aren't capable of doing it. The people in state capitals aren't going to do it. They aren't capable of doing it. And the 9 people doing the thinking for 267,000 people downtown, it's nothing but a brain-dead system. The goal is to fire up as many brain cells as possible and bring that collective consciousness together. Remember during World War II when we had the Manhattan Project, what they did was they brought like-minded people together. They all had pieces of the puzzle, and what they did was they built the bomb. Well, what we've got to do is the same thing in our community so that we can fix our failing infrastructure or our terrible tax system.
David, what's the name of this system? Does it have a name?
I call it bringing our republic into the 21st century.
And how can people contact you if they want to know more about this system and have perhaps some documentation on how to approach their local PBS stations?
Well, unfortunately, our website is down right now. It's being redone. But my email address is davidafrank1948@yahoo.com. And if they email me, I can send them everything that they need to get this thing going. And if we all start thinking the same thing at the same time, we can fix America. But we can't sit back and let these goofballs in Washington or state capitals or even downtown do this for us anymore.
David, what's the email again?
People, by the people, and for the people system.
What's the email one more time?
davidafrank1948@yahoo.com.
That was David Frank with his plan to bring our republic into the 21st century. We've got a lot more news ahead. We've also got the latest from Hollywood and the weather coming up. Stay tuned to WHDT. We'll be right back.